What's going on to all my movie fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and this is a big one because we are back in The Matrix. We're talking The Matrix 4, The Matrix Resurrections. I saw it in theaters last week in IMAX, and I'm here to let you all know my pros and my cons and let you know if you should take the blue pill and stay as far away from this movie as possible, or if you should take the red pill, see it on HBO Max, or see it in theaters. We're breaking it all down here in this spoiler-free review, but before we dive into it, check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed this review, we'll make sure to like and share it. But more importantly, leave your thoughts in the comments once you've seen this film. Let me know, number one, your anticipation level for the movie if you're a fan of this franchise. But once you've seen it, we're talking pros, we're talking cons, favorite moments, least favorite moments, what was your favorite new character. But more importantly, once you've seen this fourth Matrix, do you want to see more in the form of a Matrix 5 or a HBO Max TV series? And since this is the fourth live-action Matrix film, let's rank all four of them in the comments below. So let's just get this out the way. I'm a Matrix fan. I remember seeing this in theater back in 1999. It is easily one of my favorites, if not my favorite, action sci-fi film of all time. I don't hate the second one. I know it has its flaws, but I like it for what it was, and I think we can all agree. The third Matrix is a mess of a movie, but when it comes to this fourth one, when I heard Keanu Reeves was coming back, Carrie-Anne Moss was coming back, I was bummed to hear that Lawrence Fishburne wasn't going to be back as Morpheus, but when they said Yahya was stepping in, I'm a big fan of Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. One of the sisters were coming back, Lana, and when I saw the first two trailers, I'm like, okay, I'm popping red pills. I'm ready to go back into the Matrix. So what did I think about it? Starting off my pros. First and foremost, I think, for me personally, I'm going to start off with the best part of this movie. Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity are easily the best part of this film. Their chemistry is off the charts. It's like they never left these characters. Now, I want to talk about Keanu as Neo, who I think this might be his best performance in the role as Neo. I think he gives you so much range, and I love Keanu. I don't think he has the most range as an actor. He's great at what he does, the John Wicks, the Neos, the action movies, but he doesn't have the most range. He's not Denzel, he's not Leo, but he's given us range in this role, and I love just seeing him and knowing where he is in this world, 20 years removed from the Matrix, the blue pill version of Neo. I just love the nuance in this performance. But transitioning to Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity, she was fantastic in this movie, and again, their chemistry is great. But just her individually speaking, it's the care, it's the passion, it's the badass. I mean, Trinity's one of the most badass characters of all time, and she has an arc in this film. She has revelations that she discovers in this film. She has just so much going on, and again, them two on screen is just magic. It's them two on screen just put a big smile on my face, and I thought, like I said, they were easily the best part of this film. So if you are a fan of Neo and Trinity, I personally think you will not be disappointed in their role in this movie, and I'll just say that. But let's transition over to, there were some other performances, and particularly Jessica Henwick, who I'm a fan of her as an actress. She is a superstar just waiting to hatch, and I think this might be that opening role. I thought she was the best part of Iron Fist, and she was great in Game of Thrones. She's been great in other projects, but she was great. She plays a character by the name of Bugs. I won't say who she is in The Matrix, but she is a cool character, a badass character to say the least, and she was, out of all the new cast members, to me, she was the best new character, and she was one of the best characters in the film in general. I just loved her. I thought she had a lot of energy, a lot of charisma. She demanded your attention in her role, and I thought that she was fantastic. I mentioned that I am a fan of Yahya. Now, I have a lot more cons that I do pros of him as Morpheus, but I thought it wasn't due to the performance of Yahya, but I'll talk about him a little bit later. But he was okay. I'll just say that for the positive. He was okay, but again, I have more criticism with that character. But let's transition into a little bit of the narrative without spoiling anything. I thought, for me, the first half exploring this blue pill version of Neo and how he is in today's society, in the commentary that Lana brought to reboots, sequels, prequels, how she didn't want to make the sequel, how Warner Brothers maybe forced her to do a sequel, the other ideas that Warner Brothers wanted to do to continue the story, and how she came to make The Matrix. The commentary in the first half to me was very unique, and I was like, oh, I'm loving this so far. I'm loving the narrative that she's putting into the story, how she's tying that into the story of The Matrix. It was very meta, very self-aware, and the first act to me was just very creative. Now, I do have some issues with the creative choices, but I will say, when it comes to Lana, even if I'm not a fan of all the choices she made in this film, I can't disregard or dismiss the the risks. There's a lot of risks to be had in this film. Love it or hate it, I just love when a director does something different. I didn't like the differences, but I applaud them, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. But again, the first half commentary was really, really interesting to me. And also, I can't leave out the third act of the film. The second half, we'll talk about that later, but the third act, when it comes to the action, I was very happy with the entertainment value and some of the power sets, some new powers, some new revelations that we learned in the third act. That was very entertaining. So first half, third act, I was pretty entertained for the most part and very compelled with the story. Now, as far as other sequences, without explaining the sequences, there is a train fight that takes place in the film, and it reminded me a lot of Train to Busan. And the reason I say that is because there's an introduction to, I'll just say they're called bots, and they reminded me a lot of zombies, and they were pretty menacing and pretty cool to see at the same time, and I thought that was cool. And then last but not least, when it comes to there's obviously nostalgia, and that's something that the film plays on. Again, it's very meta when it comes to revisiting some things that we love from this franchise, which I had a good time with. There's a little bit too much nostalgia, but there are points where I'm like, oh man, that's from part one, that's from part three, even though I hate part three, or that's from part two. There's certain characters that makes cameos that I'll just say was very surprising, but there are beats of nostalgia that I enjoyed, and also the score is fantastic. It looks beautiful. The production of the film, the cinematography was great, as well as certain camera angles they choose to use. And there is the reintroduction to bullet time, which I thought was really interesting the way they use that. So there are some good things to say about this film, and particularly the chemistry between Neo and Trinity, off the charts. But for me, I hate to say this, but there are way more criticisms that I have for this movie than I do with positives. The biggest of them all, this film is extremely convoluted, and I tell you all, when it comes to exposition, this film spends so much time explaining so much of unnecessary dialogue. And as I say that, listen, I understand you have to, number one, you're talking to the audience from the first three Matrix movies. You're talking to a new audience that maybe has never seen it, so you do have to kind of explain the world. Where have characters been? Why are characters back? Why isn't this character back? It explains it in a way that it's easy to digest, but I felt at points, and particularly when we go to the second half of this film, which I think is the weakest part of this movie, it spends so much dialogue of rabbit hole upon rabbit hole. Okay, the Zion is different, but it's the same. The Matrix is different, it's the same. The reboots, it's just so much unnecessary exposition. There's so much just like unnecessary dialogue. I'm not gonna lie to you all, I was extremely bored at points, and I've never fell asleep in a movie, nor did I fall asleep in this movie, but there were times where I was literally bored to the point that I had to hit myself to wake up, because it was just so convoluted with just so much boringness in the exposition of explaining the world. And I was not a fan of the exposition in this film. I mentioned a little bit of some of the supporting characters, the ones that worked for me, like I mentioned Bugs, but a lot of the other supporting characters, in particularly Bugs and her crew that she has in this film, they were like cosplay done wrong. Like, those supporting characters to me were just very dull, very generic, which brings me to, some of the characters without spoiling anything. I'll mention Neo, his business partner, who I won't say who he is, but in IMDb, his character name is Smith. I thought that the actor Jonathan Groff, who plays his business partner, I thought the actor was fine, but I just didn't like the portrayal of the character, especially who the character is. And then I mentioned Yahya earlier. I think Yahya does his best, but him as Morpheus, I hate to play the nostalgia game, but it's just, he's miscast. You can't replace Lawrence in that role. That would be essentially, to me, and this is just my personal opinion, it would be like replacing, Carrie-Anne Moss or replacing Keanu Reeves in the role. Like, it's essential to the Matrix, and I just felt like, Yahya, you're a great actor. I can't wait to see the future of you as an actor, but I just think that he was miscast in the role, from my personal opinion. I know some of you all might disagree with me, but I just think that when it comes to, again, and also the analyst in this film, played by Neil Patrick Harris, it's just a lot of those characters to me just didn't work for me. But I mentioned the convoluted plot. The biggest issue with me in the second half, when we go to Zion, in particular, when we meet a particular character, this isn't a spoiler because she's in the trailers, Jada Pinkett Smith as Niobe. Not only does she look bad visually, I hate the process they gave her to age her up to make her look old and weary and wore, fault, but she looked terrible. Her performance was just as bad. She just seemed like, I don't know if it was Lana's direction. I don't know if it was Jada trying to add something new to the character. I didn't like it. I thought she was the worst character of the film. But in particular, when we go to Zion, to me, the momentum that was built in the first half, it came to just a complete stop to me. When we went to Zion and they just started explaining all the stuff, what's been going on, why are certain people working with certain people, it just like, this when I got bored, because it was just like dialogue. And I love dialogue, but not when it's just like, when it overshadows the momentum of the film and it's just like unnecessary dialogue. So the stuff on Zion to me did not work at all, in my opinion. It's the pacing in the second half. Again, the second half is the weakest element of this film. I mentioned how some of the action beats to me, the train sequences, the action set piece in the third act, that stuff was at its best as far as action go. The slow motion bullet time, the way they implemented it in this version of the Matrix is interesting. But when you look at the action, I know the bar is like all the way up here because, again, if you look back in 1999, the visual effects, the slow motion, all that stuff changed the action industry forever, right? For the best. But when you look at how they use the action, the slow motion, the choreographed fights, to me, it was bad. It was, and it's just my personal preference. I know some of you all might love the action, but I thought that most of the action, it looked lazy, it looked choppy, it looked like I can see the wires of them hanging on. It just looked bad to me. Again, I know the bar is so high up there, but fast forward 20 years later, the visual effects are better. The choreographers, the stunt people are better. I just felt like they dropped the ball when it came to the majority of the action. Again, I highlighted some of my favorite action moments, but some of the action in the second half was like, whew, you guys are looking old. And I don't want to, put age in it, but it's like, you're moving a little slower than Neo and some other characters. I just thought the action did not come anywhere close to the action of the first three Matrix films. That's just for me as a fan of this franchise. So those are my main cons with the film, and there's a lot more, but I don't want to make this into a rant. But before I give you over my overall thoughts and let you know which pill you should take, if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and comment below. Overall, this fourth Matrix film, it shines at best when Neo and Trinity are the main focus of the story. I enjoyed the Bugs character. She was a nice addition to the story. I thought that the blue pill version of Neo in the first half and all the commentary that was added in the first half was a very cool, interesting concept. But once we get to that second half, and even before we get to the second half, I do want to applaud the action in the third act is pretty entertaining. It's really action-packed. But that second half was just the worst part of the film. The plot at many points of the second half was just completely convoluted. As I mentioned, had completely unnecessary exposition, and they tried to recreate the action sequences that were completely game changers, that were just, they were trying to reimagine that, but it just did not work for me in the action department. And I hate to say it, but for me, I don't think this movie needed to be made. So with that being said, I hate to give it this score, but it's just how I feel about the Matrix 4, this fourth film. I've given it a 2.5 out of 5. And then when it comes to which pill you should take, see it if you want to see it, but I would suggest you take the blue pill and stay away from this film. But with that being said, it is on HBO Max, so if you do want to see The Matrix, I recommend you stay at home and watch it. I don't think it's worth going to the theaters to see it. I'm just going to say that. It's visual stunning at times. It is a good-looking movie, but I don't think it lives up to the hype. I don't think it needed to be made. As far as continuing the story, I don't want to see a Matrix 5, even though I know Neo said that he would be up for making a fifth one if there's a good enough story. I know that, HBO Max is now here and they can make a series, but I'm wiping my hands clean of this franchise. I think it's getting into that territory where we're looking at the Terminator, where every other Terminator film after the second one, and the third one's okay, but after that, it just starts to get convoluted. It starts to kind of contradict itself. I think that's happening with The Matrix because I think, again, 3 and 4, I'm going to go ahead and rank The Matrix for you all. For me personally, it's 1. I'm going to put 2. I'm going to put this fourth one and the third one, but 3 and 4 to me are just like, leave this franchise alone. But hey, that's just my thoughts. I want to know yours, your pros, your cons, your thoughts. Do you want to see more? Is this the end of the franchise? Let's talk about that. And of course, share your rankings in the comments below. Again, I appreciate you all. Love it or hate it, let's talk about it in the comments. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. Hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you have a great holidays. I can't wait to share with you all my top 10 movies of the year, top 10 shows. So many more videos coming before we wrap up this year. But I enjoyed talking to you all about this film. And as you can see on the screen now, subscribe to my channel, check out my other content. We'll catch you on the next one.